back, and we back, and we back. Let me tell you something, my loyal listeners. Sorry we've been gone. We've been on a break. Our producer, our mixer and master, Mr. DJ David Slack, was in a prison camp south of the border. He had gotten into some trouble in Tijuana. And he was in a Mexican prison, and we had to actually go and get him and break him out. So he's back now. He's okay. He actually speaks Spanish, and he's got a hell of a tan. So he's back. He's safe. Don't worry about him. He's taken care of. We've got him his vaccination shots. So he's good. That's all you guys need to know is that he's good. And, fucking life rips, dude. And it's been a fucking interesting, month and a half, So I'm really glad to be back. And, of course, I am your gracious host and captain of this here ship, Mr. Chudzy Wubzy. Okay? And then over here to my left, or my left, sorry, I have dyslexia. It's an incurable disease, and it affects over 3 million people in the United States. So, it just kind of is what it is. And it's to my left is Mr. Danny Habateas. And for the people watching the video, you can see that he has a shirt or something around his neck, and that shirt right there, the mythical shirt that saved my dad's life a year and a half ago on the high salts, and ended on the high salt river, ended racism, okay, and also just saved my dad's life. It was an amazing story, and it's actually in the episode. We talk about that with Mr. Habateas, so you should watch that. Was that episode 2, I think?
Yeah. Episode 2. Side note, we'll be auctioning off the shirt for charity at some point. Yeah, don't know when, but we're going to do that. And
second side note, no, we will be not, because that shirt means a lot to my family, okay?
You can buy it. It's going to a good cause.
I shouldn't have gave it to you. I've had it for so long, and you stopped asking about it, so you know what?
That's fair.
That's okay.
I also need a nickname.
That's okay. And we got a fucking real special guest, and every guest is real fucking special because we're going to be fucking getting into this person's life, and we're going to talk about some trials and some tribulations, and we're going to laugh, and we're going to have a good time. And it's going to be fucking great, dude. And that's Miss Whitney Vader. Is your last name Vader?
I legitimately don't know your last name, and I've known you for years.
She wouldn't tell me.
Yes, I don't tell people my last name.
Well, so keep your secrets then, Miss Whitney.
Keep your
Whitney
secrets.
X.
I'll probably get into why in this story.
Oh man, I didn't even think that there was a story behind it, but okay,
we'll
talk about
it. Whatever. We'll get into it.
Yeah, we'll get into it. But anyways, Vader's a way cooler last name anyway, so
we also got a sponsor.
I'm getting there, dude. Wait a second, will you please, dude? We got a fucking sponsor, okay?
Dang, butt, good big butt.
And that's Bud Out e-cigs, baby. Yeah. The best in the business, dude. And they provide all your vaping needs. You can order food, It's like a fucking Postmates. It's like a Postmates for vaping, except you got to wait 3 to 5 business days for it to get to your door. But it will get there. And guess what? I'm doing something real special for my listeners, man. And we've been doing this real special thing for you guys, okay? Excuse me. I'm fucking drinking an iced Americano, so that's what's up.
Hell yeah.
Actually, it's not. It's a French. It's a wheel French.
Tell me there was no cream, man.
Yeah, well, it's straight up black because that's what's up, okay? So I'm getting a little crazy right now. I can feel it, dude. It's a vibe right now. It's a vibe in here, dude. And so listen. Just listen to me for a second. Let me say this, okay? You're gonna enter in last week out. In the promo code on the website, on the line, you're gonna get on the line and you're gonna type in Bud Out e-cigs and you're gonna order your salt nicks and your fucking mods and your fucking whatever, dude. And you're gonna put last week on the promo code. And what are they gonna get when they do that, David?
They're gonna get 20% off.
20% off your order, and you're gonna support the fucking podcast, dude. You know you want to support the podcast, dude. Limestone Lenny depends on it, man. So please get on there and donate. And you can actually just Venmo me personally at Chad Fredman. I want to quit my job and just do this full time for you guys because you are what's most important to me in my life. So please, you can just go ahead and do that. And that would be really, really nice,
Hell
Hold
yeah.
on 1 second. Hold on.
I'm going to pause for this coffee break.
She'll put you in a fucking full Nelson and make you lick her titties. Yeah, her titties. And that was talking about a prison guard. And she was a wonderful woman, by the way. So,
I thought it was someone's mom that you were talking about.
No, dude, we were talking. I forget the lady's name, dude. That was with Cam, though, wasn't it? Yeah.
It was Cam's mom, I think.
No, dude, it was not Cam's mom. It wasn't.
Okay.
No.
Well, let's think about the context there.
Yeah.
Someone's mom.
It was someone's mom. Everyone's
well, not necessarily.
Well,
it
yeah.
was someone's daughter.
It was someone's daughter and could have possibly been someone's mom. And you're someone's daughter.
I am.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk about that, Miss Whitney. Where are you from? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
All right. Well, I'm not gonna lie. This is a little awkward.
No, yeah, it's awkward as fuck, but that's
and
okay.
I'm awkward, so if I'm like being awkward,
dude, you know what? I got that vibe from you right away, and I gotta tell you, I appreciate it a lot because it's fucking authentic. When someone can come in a room and they don't do it on purpose, but they're just fucking awkward, I'm like, yeah, me too, man. Thank you.
I'm always kind of like fidgeting around a little bit.
Yeah, you're saying like, oh, well, that's a cool you did there.
You did a cool. Slack did a cool earlier.
Yeah, he did a cool. He did a cool thing.
Cool. What was that? I forget.
I don't
missed
even
it
remember
also.
what it was.
So you know,
it was your Goodwill.
Oh
purchase.
yeah.
Mm-hmm. You want to know what? You want to know what else is cool?
What?
You're cool.
Okay.
So let's talk about you.
Get into it.
Let's talk about you.
I don't know if I'm cool, but we'll get into it.
We'll find it. That's what the next hour is about, is deciding that.
Yeah.
No pressure.
Make up. Yeah, I'll let you know. Spoiler, I'm not very cool.
So what's up? Where'd you do?
So I grew up. All right, let me get it out.
All right, I'm sorry.
Yeah, dude.
I will
give it a
shut
chance,
I
dude.
grew up in Wisconsin.
Oh, damn.
Nice.
Big cheese.
Cheese. So, and I like, my family is fantastic. Like, Italian, Polish family. They are from upstate New York, both my parents. And I grew up in like rural Wisconsin on a farm with horses and like 3 German shepherds and like all this land with 3 siblings. It was great. I loved it. And I'm so grateful I grew up there. And I always say that. And then I moved here when I was 12 and I've lived here ever since.
Only child?
No, one of 4.
She just said she had a bunch of siblings on a
You're
farm.
just not even
I was
listening?
thinking about a bunch of things at the same time.
Yeah, you
Oldest,
did-
youngest, where do you fall in line there?
So I'm the middle, older middle.
Okay.
So we've got the oldest sister who is cool. We got my we got my brother beneath me who him and I are super tight. We're like, you've probably met him before, Danny. He is like boy me, like in every way, the way he talks, his mannerisms.
What's his last name?
Don't even start. Vader, it's Vader.
Yeah, it's fucking Darth Vader. Just
It's
don't
Vader.
even
It's
worry
always
about
been
it.
Vader.
So you moved here when you were 12,
Yes.
and you're a cowgirl.
No.
Okay.
Okay, so here's the thing about me. I have always been odd. I've just odd or different from my fellows, like that experience in AA, I was like, that is spot on. Like when I heard that, I was like, I've always felt different. So I've always felt the need to try and fit in. So I, tried really hard when I came here to not be like from the Midwest, because I moved, and my parents, they wanted the best for us. So they moved us to North Scottsdale. They didn't really know.
East of the 101.
Yeah, like 130th and Shea. Yeah. So I went to
Desert Mountain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that
Go
where you
Wolves.
went? Oh my
Yo,
God.
we
Wolves.
had the
Oh my
most
God.
amazing high school parties from people that lived at Desert Mountain.
Yeah.
The most amazing. So thank you for that.
You went to like the small 5-bedroom house parties?
Yeah, basically.
No, see, that's the thing. I was not involved in the parties, like in high school, because I was a competitive swimmer. Like probably the biggest part of my story is I was a competitive swimmer for 16 years. I started when I was in Wisconsin. I think I was like 6, and I swam. So that was like my life, especially like growing up from like the time I moved here when I started getting really good to the time that I, we'll get to it, but it got kicked off the U of A swim team.
Oh wow! So being in such a competitive sport your whole life, I imagine, because I've always wondered this, because I never played anything competitively, but I imagine that the ethos with that is like at a young age. Like, so were you like a very like regimented, like organized person because you played a competitive sport? Like you were like, this is my routine, this is what I do, or was it just kind of like something you did for fun? Like, what was the mindset behind that?
I think there's a lot of levels to it. I think mostly it was I needed that kind of discipline. I needed that kind of routine because I'm so all over the place that like if I don't have things in place structured for me, I get really lost and confused and distracted.
Like taking Xanax.
Yeah, exactly. And so like, but I thrive when I have a routine. Like I do so well. I hate like bragging. But I was a really, really good swimmer. I went to Olympic trials in 2008.
Whoa, dude. And how old were you then in 2008?
That was a stunt.
I was 18.
You just stunted right there.
Yeah, you
Olympic
just
trials.
flexed on us right now, dude. Your shirt's ripping. You're flexing so hard.
Well,
Damn,
I
dude.
mean, I worked my fucking ass off for swimming. Like it was my whole life. And anyone listening who grew up doing like a competitive sport that was so demanding, like you understand it's this level of commitment from like a kid. That's a lot to ask.
So out of curiosity, like there's softball, there's volleyball, there's soccer. Why swimming? What was?
Well, Desert Mountain, it was different. It was like I played tennis. There was golf,
lacrosse,
swimming.
maybe?
No,
Yeah,
well,
it
I was
like-
a swimmer before.
We didn't mess with football and
we're
the sports that didn't cost money.
Only sports you can do at the country club.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
For sure. I'm not allowed in this.
Yeah, why would I?
like hang around those other peasants. I'm so sorry.
Yeah. But what was it like? What is it about swimming?
It's just swimming is like the most natural thing for me. Like I've always loved the water since I can remember. I wanted to be a swimmer, you know, and I was just automatically good at it.
Yeah.
And just something about like all of my knee joints, my arms, my shoulders, all like are double jointed and hyperextend. So I'm just like, oh, there we go, I did it.
You start
Got all excited, and I moved away from the microphone.
You're just flailing around,
you
dude.
can see this video.
What stroke is that?
I'm thinking.
Look on my face like I smell some piss.
That's part of it. Go like this. Do the bird.
Oh, shit.
Irrelevant.
So were you scholarship athlete at U of A?
Yeah, so I had a full scholarship to U of A. And
God damn.
when I went to U of A the year before, they had won the NC2A title, both men's and women's.
Yeah.
So I was good enough where I could just choose wherever I wanted to go, and I was going to get most likely a full scholarship. So I got to go on recruiting trips and stuff, and I got to do, I got to like pretty much just pick.
And you picked Tucson?
Yeah, because U of A had the best team, and it was like people came, like Olympic athletes from other countries came to swim at U of A, and Olympians for the United States swim for U of A.
Oh, wow. So
Yeah.
with being so proficient in like that competitive sport, what were your grades in school? Were you a good student? Like,
We'll rewind a little bit, and this is something, if you know me well enough, I'll bring it up. It's important. It's super important to keep talking about, and it happened to me. So we'll rewind when I was about 12, turning 13, my swim coach at the time started sexually abusing me for a very long time, for years.
God damn it.
Yeah. I mention it because like what happened to me was so much more than just like it wasn't just physical abuse. It was this thing called grooming, and it happens a lot with like authority figures to people, who are entrusted to take care of or teach or train or whatever. Mm-hmm. So it's really common, and it happened to me. Absolutely. I was like a young girl who I didn't understand. I thought that was love, and I thought that was normal. And, I held on to that secret until I was 22. And I didn't tell a soul. So in terms of like my life in that time when I was swimming, I was really weird and antisocial. So somewhere like, Desert Mountain, which is just, if you know about it,
yeah, whatever. It's like just real preppy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like,
Chad went to Casa Grande.
I gotta
Casa
go.
Grande Union, Desert Winds Alternative School, baby.
Desert Winds Alternative, dog.
Yeah, dog.
Sounds like a class of 500 people.
I mean, I don't want to get into all that, but it was fucking
312 actually.
That was drug school.
So 2 questions. One, so you mentioned grooming, right? So what does that look like for people that don't understand what that is?
Yeah. So grooming is like, and I'll give you an example different from mine. So we could say it's between a teacher and a student, right? So the teacher uses their position of authority and power over said student to kind of influence them, make them, do what they want, brainwash them in a sense. So I think what happened with me is I was groomed because he manipulated my young teenage mind into thinking like that's what love was. So I thought that's what love was. And in turn, I was like, he was my coach, and he got a lot of like glory from being my coach because of everything I accomplished. And he would consistently say to me, you know, you can never tell someone about this because I will go to jail. And I would be like, oh my God, I don't want that. So, you know, it's just complete manipulation of power. And he knew, you know, it was calculated. Yeah. And this happens, it's not just in sports. It's not just with a adult and a minor. It happens everywhere. It happens in
Harvey
so
Weinstein
many.
Shit, huh?
Yes, yeah. Exactly. It's happening everywhere. And like, when I hear shit like that about the, you know, Harvey Weinstein, I'm like, it's just on a different level or a different scenario, a different scale, but it's the same fucking thing. Like, I watched that R. Kelly documentary, and it was the same exact thing. I don't know if you guys watched that, but it was
it's too tough. Like, it
horrible
hurts to watch shit like that.
It was horrible, yeah. But it's a similar, it's the same thinking where he used his power and his authority to manipulate people, and especially women, into doing whatever he wanted. So it's go ahead.
Do you know if there was like other people on the team that were a victim of this as well, or?
So there were no other like swimmers on that team. But what happened was a bunch of his athletes from the college team that he went on to coach, because he got a D1 college coaching job while he was my coach. He got offered this job, you know. So he went, but a bunch of those swimmers, you know, accused him of abuse and of different kinds after I came out.
And so you were subject to this for a number of years, it sounds like, right? And you ended up coming out with it when you were 21, you said?
Yeah. So fast forward, you know, my swimming career, I still did, you know, great. I went to Olympic trials. I qualified in 6 different events, which was like, you know, that wasn't easy. That was a big, cool thing. And then at U of A, you know, I won an NC2A title my sophomore year on the 400 medley relay, which, you know, an NC2A Division I title was like one of my all-time like lifetime goals. And I fell off shortly after that. I got kicked off the team in the next year, the beginning of my junior year, for just partying too much, you know, failing drug tests and stuff.
When did that start? When did the drugs and alcohol kind of become a part of the story?
When I got to college, you know, I had never really like partied before that. I had never had the chance, you know, I couldn't party because I was swimming. Like, that was my whole life. So I kind of lived this like miserable, like young life of solitude when I was younger, you know, and I was kind of like going through this thing. And I'm so sorry this has gotten so heavy. It'll lighten up soon.
No, this is the point of this podcast, man. Yeah. It's like you sitting across from us and being super transparent and honest is like the hopes that someone's gonna hear this and they're gonna be like, hey, I'm not alone. So please, like, you be as authentic as you're being and just like continue on, because you're doing a great job right now.
Okay, cool.
We've had way darker.
Oh, you want to get dark? Okay, that's so satisfying. Doing a metal scream into the microphone. Oh my God.
What was that?
What was that, you guys? That was weird.
That was a weird pitch.
Where did it come from?
Good play, dude. Good fucking play.
That was hella
dude.
weird.
Good
There's a
fucking play.
ghost in here.
This room's haunted.
So high school, you were not.
Right. So I was not the party girl. So the partying started when I got to college, and I became cool, you know, people fucking liked me, and I could relax because I was always, you know, just carrying so much guilt and shame within at all times that like I had no idea how to like communicate with people at all. And then I would drink and I would be like, oh my God. And I just, you know, I was the kind of person where if you handed me something like a pill or something, I would just take it, and then I would ask you what it was. I'd be like, oh, by the way, what was that? But like, let's get lit. You know,
yeah,
like
that's
I didn't care.
Yeah, that's super normal to me too.
Yeah. Like it would be weird to like, why wouldn't you want drugs? Who cares what kind of drugs it is? Like, do it, you know? And so that's just kind of how it started. And I, you know, quickly got into pills, and my parents, so I got kicked off the team. My parents came and moved me back up to Phoenix, because my parents through this whole thing have been so incredibly supportive my entire life.
Was there a specific situation that got you kicked off the team? Or was it just a culmination of...
I had like a meeting with my coach a week prior, and he asked me if I was, you know, doing drugs, what was up with me.
And you said no.
Yeah, of course.
Right.
I said, fuck no. I was like, no.
How dare you?
Yeah, I was like, how could you say
I'm a Division I champion.
Yeah, I was like, do you know who the fuck I am? You know? And then a week later, he had me do a drug test, and I knew it. Even before I peed, I was like, I got some bad news,
you just,
yep.
You didn't admit it ever. You never admitted guilt.
No. I never admitted. Well, I admitted guilt that second time.
Yeah.
I was called to the office, but until then I was like, I'm gonna figure it out.
Deny.
And because, I'm like, this is all I have. Like, if I'm not a swimmer anymore,
Oh, wow. So it's a loss of identity.
100%. That
scary.
is who I was.
Well, and the scholarship too.
Yeah, and the scholarships to no more school.
Right.
So you leave U of A at that point, right?
So I leave. So my parents are like, okay. They come get me. I move in. I think I move in with my mom. And I was working at a restaurant. I started, just partying like super heavy, doing a bunch of coke, doing a bunch of like pain pills. And then I think that in that first time I shot dope like twice. And before that I hadn't smoked it or anything. It was just someone offered.
You're talking about heroin?
Yeah, heroin.
Well, you went directly from like never using heroin to like, hey, let's use this.
Yeah, I was hanging out with these like shady people in North Scottsdale, and they were where my mom lived. And it was like,
I knew you were familiar.
Me. Here I am.
That's a big jump.
Yeah. So, I mean, it was just, I was so down for whatever. Yeah. And, like, in my mind, too, I think I had this, like, romanticized view of, like, shooting dope.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to do it. You know what I mean? I wanted to be like that. Like, I just had no idea who I was. So I was like, maybe I'll find myself in this,
Well, that's really true, because I've just been watching Breaking Bad for the first time ever.
So good.
So good. Well, there's a scene where Jesse does a speedball with meth and heroin for the first time. Mm-hmm. And the way they filmed it, it was like this romanticized, like he does the shot, he leans back on the bed, and then like he starts to just float up. Right, and like it gave me the willies, gave me the goddamn willies, dude. Because being an IV drug user for so long and not being anymore, obviously, was like watching that, and like it was a wild experience. Gave me the
false start.
Gave me the goddamn willies. Dude. That's so good. I'm so glad you got that. Goddamn willies, because that's what it is, man. Because like. Right, I became an IV drug user because I found acceptance in that.
Right.
You know what I mean? It was just like something that just like came so naturally. It's like, I'm going to destroy my life, but like these people love me, and they love me like so much more than everyone else. And like I just feel...
And they won't judge me, and they'll let me be who I am.
Right, and it's like...
fucking blah.
But as we all know, that ends either soon or it takes a long time, and it's a lot of suffering. So for you... when does this start to get like completely out of control?
So for me, it didn't get out of control that time with heroin. My mental health became the number one problem. Yeah. So right after that second time I did heroin, and I had been stealing from my stepdad, right? I'd been stealing cash out of his safe. And he found out about it.
How'd you get into the safe?
I had the code.
You had the code?
They trusted me.
Did they give you the code, or did you like sneakily acquire?
No, they gave it to me.
Oh shit! All
right. Or like you know what? They didn't give it to me, but I'm pretty sure it was like, hey, go open it real quick. Yeah. Like
that's so funny. Quick side note: I actually got the code to my parents' safe, but this is how I did it. They had it in their closet, and they always folded laundry on top of it. So I took the iPad and I flipped the camera, and I just pressed record, and I put it underneath the pile of clothes. But the camera was slightly overhanging, and it looked down right at the combination. So one day when I went and grabbed it,
Mission Impossible,
dude, and I just like I analyzed the video for I don't know how long, and then bam, I fucking nailed it. Like I was watching so many different frames of just hands coming in and just.
I picture you like throwing baby powder on the number
pad
to see which parts are
with the black light.
I was a fucking sneaky little bitch. I'll tell you what, dude.
Mission Impossible.
So okay, anyways, you're robbing your stepdad.
So I'm robbing my stepdad. He finds out. My mom and my stepdad call me, and I think they had their suspicions. Yeah. And they're like, someone robbed us, like thousands and thousands of dollars. And I'm like,
that sucks.
I'm like, that's crazy.
Should have invested in CDs, stepdad.
Yeah, you should have not given me the code, stepdad, in passing.
Yeah,
that one
dub
time.
stepdad.
I love you, Lance, if you hear this a lot. I'm so sorry. So
Fuck you,
that
you're
happened.
not my dad.
Yikes.
It's true, you're not.
But she still loves you.
Hey, Lance,
I
please
do.
hit the subscribe
Okay,
button.
we're not.
Subscribe.
He doesn't even know about this. Anyway, so a couple days pass, and that night they said, okay, we're gonna call the cops and I'm fingerprinted and then I'm like, oh, I'm caught.
Yeah.
Okay, now I'm caught. And like, because my hands, because he didn't believe in banks, so my fucking sticky hands are all over everything, digging through like envelopes and stuff. So I tried to kill myself.
Now, I imagine that's not because you got caught stealing. Like, I imagine there's more to like, hey, I tried to kill myself.
Yeah,
than, like, I got caught stealing.
This was the event because I had been using. I knew I was like, I'm about to be fucking fucked off. Like, I'm about to be strung out on drugs. Like, this is bad. Like, because I'm going down. And all the while, my mental health was totally. I'd never talked to a therapist. I had never told anyone about anything that had happened to me. I just, I have my trauma, but I've also been the way I am since I was born. Like I have really bad depression and really bad anxiety. And I'm just like mostly social anxiety, depression. It's, if I don't treat it, it's horrible. It's unbearable.
Different from your fellows.
Yes, absolutely. Totally different where I never could just adjust correctly. It was always difficult. So yeah, a lot of things led up to that. And I was at my best friend at the time's house and I just went through all of her pills and just took like hundreds of pills of mixed whatever. And I locked myself in the bathroom. She like basically knocked the door in, called the ambulance. I end up at Aurora in Tempe. Behavioral health. Aurora, that's my shit. Love it. And I end up there and, a social worker asked me if I've ever been sexually abused and no one had ever asked me before. So
how old are you at this point?
I'm 21 or 22. Yeah. I want to say 22. It was like 2012.
Yeah, no one loves you when you're 22.
Yeah, nobody. Blink said it best. Nobody loved me. So finally someone asked me and I said it. I was like, yes, I have. And she asked me who, and I said my swim coach. And she asked me, is he still a coach? And I said, yep. She said, okay, like this happened when you were a minor and he's still a coach. So we have to report this now. I was like, okay. So
was that scary?
Yeah. How did that feel when you finally let that go?
That felt good. It felt good to tell her, and I'll say this too for like all victims of any kind of abuse. It's so hard to come forward because it's so hard to take everything that happens after, because it's one thing to tell one person, this social worker who has obvious, she's caring and I can talk to her and I feel safe with this woman, as opposed to like cop after cop after cop after, my parents, after my family, like lawyers, over and over. It's a horrible process.
There's a serious aftermath to it, right?
Yes.
Well, that's we're going to take a quick break. We usually do about this point, and then we're going to get back into it, and we're going to talk a little bit about that aftermath.
All right.
Be right back. Good evening, my friends. It's Commander Cutie, Mr. Chudsy Wubsy from the Last Week Out podcast, and we've got some exciting news for y'all. Over here at the Last Week Out podcast, we are produced by Slack Media, and they have a special promotion going on right now. If you are a two-legged Homo sapien or a millennial who just had a meaningful conversation and have the urge to put it on the internet, we're just the people for the job. We record, edit, and update and post. Update and post. What the fuck is update? Why did I say update?
You can update stuff.
I guess you can update stuff. Listen, dude, you want to fucking do a podcast? Guess what? We're the ones that can do it for you. We can edit, mix, master, and produce the whole thing, and we can help you figure out, do you know what an RSS feed is? because I sure didn't when I started this, but because of Slack Media, now I do. So if you have a podcast and you want to get it started and you want to skip all the difficult stuff, go ahead and email slackmediallc@gmail, god damn it, dude. Or you can slide in our DMs at the last week out on Instagram.
Ooh.
Get on in there. Love you. Bye. We good on the video over there, bud?
Yes.
Okay, good. And Danny is lighting something on fire because he's a pyrotechnic. But he doesn't have a degree in pyrotechnics, so he's doing something really dangerous. And welcome back.
I feel like that's more of a trade, not a degree.
Pyrotechnics.
Yeah.
Pyrotechnics.
I went to fireworks school.
There'd be some fun homework assignments.
That would gave me the goddamn willies. Yeah, it gave me the goddamn willies, dude. And you know what? We're back.
Like that.
We're back, dude, and we're back, and we were talking about some pretty serious stuff. And again, I want to thank you, Miss Whitney, for being so transparent and honest. And we're getting into the aftermath of what it's like when you are sexually abused and you finally speak up, because I think that that is a big thing, because there's so many things that happen after that and that have to happen, right? And it's a hard thing for someone to go through. Like, it really is. So let's kind of just dive into that. So we left off, you were 22 years old and you finally spoke up about abuse from your swim coach at a young age.
Yes. So, so I came forward, and the short version of it is I went through about a year of the dealing with the police, the legal system side of it, and then on from that, the civil side of it, kind of holding USA Swimming accountable, who is the governing body of all swimming. So there's no professional swimming. It's just they're in charge of everything. But the hardest part of the whole situation was telling policeman after policeman the story, and they have to have the details. They have to have every single terrible detail. So I had to do that, and I had to do it over and over and over. And the one thing that made it so difficult was when I came forward, it was, years after. And of course there was no proof, and they're like, okay, so here's the reality. And this happens a lot, is we don't have any proof. All we have is what you're saying to us. That's not proof. What you have to do is, before we approach him or before we do anything, you have to call him and you have to get him to confess in detail what he did. That's the only way this can work.
Wow.
God,
and I'm like, this is, I had gotten sober at this time. I was living in sober living, and I had the program. I was doing really well, and I had a really amazing support system around me. So I went to do this call, and my dad was there, and my friend from sober living was there with me. And I called him, and I used, the program to get him to admit. Like I said, I'm in AA, and I'm on my 4th step, and I need you to admit what you did to me so that I can work through my resentment. And I had remembered he is an alcoholic. I remember him going to AA and showing up drunk to morning practice and stuff. So I knew, I'm like, this is how I get him to admit it. And he fucking admitted all of it. Yeah. And all the police were listening, and how we are now, it was like this. It was a table like this. They were all sitting there listening, and they're all like, what the fuck? So finally, the end of it, he said all this shit, right? And he started to get nervous, and he started to ask me weird questions, and literally he was manipulating me over the phone again, and I didn't even know. And the cop went and hung up. He's like, we have what we need. Yeah. And he hung up.
The true definition of got him, coach.
Got him. Like, it was a horrible situation. It was a horrible experience. But I knew I had to do that. Like, I had to do that. He needed to be held accountable.
Was there some like sense of relief after going through that process and like having other people, whether it's like believe you or, because I imagine that's like a different experience once like more people know, they know it's true, they understand what happened. Like,
yes and no. It's so, you guys asked me why I don't like to use my last name, and this is why. Because if you Google me, I was a really good swimmer, so my swimming stuff will come up, and this was highly like publicized and covered. It was on Outside the Lines on ESPN.
oh shit.
Yeah.
With
So
Bob
like,
Levy.
so I don't like people knowing my full name because I don't want everyone to have access to that information.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, at any time, like, oh, hey, like, you're applying for this job, like, let's just see what's up. And then it's like this whole fucking shit,
Yeah,
and I'm like, so that's why I'm kind of weird about it. But at the same time, I believe it is my responsibility to share my experience. Like, as uncomfortable as it makes me, because it does feel, so you asked me if I felt relief, and I would say no. Relief is not the word. I felt some kind of freedom for sure, but the real freedom, I did this because I had to. I did this because I had to share my story, because it's happening all over every day, constantly. And people don't know how to talk about it, or they feel like they're alone. That's how I felt. I didn't know who the fuck to talk to. I didn't know what the fuck was going on. I had no one to talk to. There was nobody who I felt like could understand or relate, so that's why, like, I've gotten calls and messages from girls saying, like, dude, thank you for saying this. Like, and they've come out with their own experiences in a whole, different coach in a different state, but at the same fucking shit, that grooming that I was talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the freedom for me, though, the relief for me has come only within the last few years, with doing EMDR therapy, trauma therapy, working through the trauma, resolving it, rewiring my brain, learning that, like, the way I act and the feelings I feel about myself are directly related to what happened to me, but that it's taken a long fucking time.
Yeah.
For a long time, like, this was just, it was like my life, so like I relapsed, after all of this, legal stuff, going through all of it. I relapsed after I went on a long run because I was not ready to deal with it still. I couldn't handle it. I couldn't handle the thought of trying to go to therapy and talk through this and keep talking about it, and I just wanted it to go away. But I realized it will never go away. It happened to me, but I have an incredible amount of tools and people and just so many resources now that I've only gotten by speaking up. So it's kind of like a double-edged sword, right? Like, I have these available to me because I reached out for help, but that in and of itself was so fucking hard.
Yeah.
So
So I want to talk about the therapy and the benefits of that and that experience a little bit, but so we were talking during the break, and I'm curious if some of these events have changed the way that you interact with people, right? So you talked about when we're on the break, kind of like watching people and seeing how people move and that sort of thing. And I'm just curious, how have these events kind of altered the way that you interact with people before and after kind of that whole experience?
I mean, they altered who I am fundamentally, so therefore everything is affected. But, what I was saying during the break was, and you guys are all fantastic, but men in general, I'm a little bit more, I'm always hyper aware, like, and you can ask any woman, like, we are hyper aware of men around us, especially men we don't know, like in dark places and strange places. And I'm hyper aware of when I see a man manipulating a woman. I know it's absolutely possible. I'm sure it happens with women to men, but I've never encountered it in my life. But when I see it with men, even if it's subtle things, I get really uncomfortable. And I have tried to stand up for, women who maybe don't know they have a voice, try and be available to them way more than I would have before. I would not have even known. You know, I wouldn't have given a fuck.
Yeah.
Quite honestly, because, you know, I never experienced that. But that's part of my story. It's part of, you know, it's the hardest thing I've ever lived through. So, and I know it goes on every day, all the time. So I think talking about it takes away the power.
Yeah. And the hyper-aware thing is interesting, right? So like you just went backpacking through Europe effectively, right?
Yeah.
And we were talking about traveling internationally and things on the way over here. And I was like, yeah, you should probably go backpacking through, you know, like Southeast Asia or what have you. And Whitney said something interesting. It was like, yeah, my biggest fear would be like getting sold into sex trafficking. I'm like, holy shit, that's not a thing. Like, what was the worst thing that you thought could happen?
That
You did not think that. You did not think that could happen in Europe.
They're coming for you,
I
Slick.
Like,
I
legitimately,
did
it's like-
lose some weight recently,
Yeah.
like I was saying.
But seriously, it's like I'm traveling international. Like the worst thing that can happen is like I lose my wallet.
I thought I'm robbed, you know, from somebody if I stood out too much as a tourist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Right? Like not that I'm going to be locked in a cage.
Yeah.
Right? Which is fucking wild.
Yeah.
And it's something that like, I don't know, I don't think about ever. Right? So it's definitely an interesting thing.
Or a little side note, what happened to Nick, if you want to get into that, what I was telling you earlier.
Yeah, tell the story real quick.
Quick story.
Oh, yeah.
So side note, I met up with our friends Marcus and Nick while I was over there for one day. Nick goes to this CVS type store in Spain, and he's being typical American, being like, blah, blah, hey, is this body wash? And just asking him super, whatever, sticking out like a sore thumb. And the guy's like, yeah, and then sells it to him. And he gets home, and he's using it, the body wash, for like 2 days, and Marcus finally Googles it, and it's feminine hygiene wash, vaginal wash.
It's like, yeah, here's your body wash.
Yeah, and so that's what
I'm going to ask a really dumb question. Is there like are there specific products for washing your
Absolutely.
vagina?
Here, let me
Yeah, dude, summer breeze,
Let
baby.
me tell you
All right,
something.
all right.
A
School
vagina
me.
is like an ecosystem, and it has a
really
very
is.
specific, delicate pH balance. And
I'm
harsh,
sure of that.
harsh perfumes and like most body wash can really women. If you're listening, you should definitely use feminine wash on your lady parts because it's just way better for your vagina.
I'll concur with this and suggest that
Yes,
happens also, please,
definitely.
for the love of everybody.
It's
right?
important stuff.
Like, I'll eat
this is turning
pineapples.
into like a women empowerment podcast.
Women
and I love it.
empowerment.
Yeah, fuck, I'm
Which
down with that.
dude, yeah, which I'm super down with, dude, because that thing you just said about the ecosystem of that's fucking real, dude.
That's some cool
That's
shit.
super real.
You know what else is real? A woman's body is the only thing that it's a portal from the spirit world to the physical world.
Yo, I think about this all the time of like, what if the afterlife is
You being
just
born?
my period in the womb, right? Like that time period that I'm in the womb.
Oh wait, you mean your life?
So like I die at some point, right? Like I'm gonna die at some point. And then I 100% believe that there's an afterlife, right? And I'll have some consciousness during that time period. But what if that time period is just while I'm in the womb? Like I feel like babies in the womb have some sort of consciousness,
Right.
and it's something that I can't really explain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like you're part of another
Yeah.
organism thing, but you're also, I don't know. What if it's, like afterlife is like from one womb, like you're born into this world and then you go back into another womb, and then
A
your vagina
vagina
is
is
like an ecosystem.
Yes.
So good.
I
Use
would.
that forever, please.
I would wear a shirt that says that. I want to make a
Trademark
shirt.
it.
Yeah, I want to wear a shirt that says that.
Well, it's
I'll-
crazy, dude. And I'll state the obvious, man. A woman's body literally manufactures a brain, lungs, kidneys,
Heart.
bones.
A vagina
me.
is like an ecosystem. Also that.
It like feeds this fetus.
It literally grows. There's nothing else on earth that can fucking grow a human except for a woman's womb.
Yeah, it's like insane.
It's insane.
it's
It really
super
is
insane.
fucking insane. Like, it's incredible because we can't create something as, like, we can't create a human except, like, we can't make one. We can't sit here and
Yeah.
design a human.
Now
But,
without
like,
that dude.
No, we don't do
and there's DJ
Confusion.
David CBD over there just having to come in with some crazy shit like that.
Off
So
the
we're
wall.
getting off track.
We are
So,
getting off
I'm
track.
real curious.
You had a second part to your question.
Yeah, so the second part was I'm really interested in EMDR, and I'm just curious about that experience and like the before and after and what that's been like.
So I'm in it
Yeah.
right now. It's
Nice.
been some build up to get there, to become willing to really go, because what happens is you're kind of like hypnotized using like sounds and words, and you're asked to go back to that place and relive what happened, because your brain kind of, I'm gonna fuck this up, so I might not be describing EMDR perfectly, but I
You're
think
not
I'll
a
give
doctor?
you the gist. I'm actually not.
Okay,
It's
fine.
amazing.
Sure.
I know. I didn't find time. I was busy
It's
for
fair.
a while. But yeah, so it's basically you're reliving everything, and then you have to rewire your brain. Or you don't have to. What happens is your brain is rewired to see where the trauma affects you in your life today.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so it's like, the best way I can describe it is unlearning what you thought was true based on the trauma you went through, and then relearning what the actual truth is.
Yeah. Interesting. So did you
Yeah.
go into therapy with the idea like, I want to do EMDR?
No. So here's what I knew. I knew that my trauma, I had to talk to somebody about it. That's what I knew. I was like, this is fucking me up. I can see how it's affecting my relationships in my life. I can see how it affects my self-esteem. I can see how it affects just so many things about myself. And I don't want to feel this way anymore. I don't want to fucking be this way anymore. So that's where, I was like, all right, I'm going to go to therapy, because I hadn't, until I really went and gave therapy an honest try, I hadn't found a combination of things that worked in terms of dealing with stabilizing my mental health. I was always all over the fucking board. Granted, I have my days. I have many days, but I've found more consistency so I do therapy, and I also microdose mushrooms.
Okay.
Which,
Damn, that's tight.
yeah, and it's not like I've never tripped or something.
Right,
I
right.
do a small tiny amount 3 days a week.
What does that do? Like, what's the
It's for
effect?
depression. So the effect, because I personally I've taken a lot of antidepressants. I am not a fan. I experienced some really scary side effects from one, and I was like, dude, I'm fucking done.
Yeah.
I'm done with this. But I've only been doing the microdosing for about 2 months. But what I'm experiencing is, colors are a little bit brighter. It's a little bit easier for me to get going in the morning. And I just overall feel happier. It's easier for me to be happy.
Yeah.
It's not like pulling teeth. And I guess my friend who kind of recommended this to me said it so well. She's like, I imagine that this is how a depressed person would view the world, or a not depressed person would view the world.
Yeah.
Colors are a little bit brighter. Sounds are nicer. You know what I'm saying? Little shit like that. But
Yeah, the birds are chirping, the grass is greener.
yeah,
That's really interesting, because I know that the idea of like micro dosing psilocybin right now is so new.
yes.
So are there any kind of like different, warnings or like ideas of like, is this something that becomes, dependent, like one person becomes dependent upon
Right.
this micro dosing, or is it an idea of like getting on it and tapering off of it?
I think it's so I've done a lot of reading about it, and it seems like a lot of people have varying experiences. It's not something you should do if your mindset is anything other than, I was at the end of the rope or at the end of the line when it came to medication. I was done taking medication, but I also know that my depression has to be treated. And the treatment for me is mental health, spiritual, and medication. And I, working on my spirituality, taking care of my soul is how I kind of look at it. And that involves a lot of things. But I had to be on medication. And like the last medication I was on was Effexor. And this was, so I had started taking antidepressants when I was 17. So this is 10 years of taking antidepressants. Granted, there's a lot of drug use sprinkled in there. So, we'll leave that for, the meds weren't working then. Okay?
Yeah.
But when I sobered up and I started taking Effexor, it just gave me these things called brain zaps. Like I just felt like it would start in my brain and be the shock through my whole body.
Holy fuck.
It was fucking awful.
Yeah.
And I told my friend about it, who was also on the medication. I'm like, I'm experiencing this thing, blah, blah, blah. She's like, I'm experiencing it too. And I looked it up, and it's common. They call it brain zaps. So at that moment, I was like, I am done with medication.
I feel like I'm going to see a class action lawsuit coming in like 2 years about this.
Yeah, you can literally look it up. It's brain zaps from Effexor. So I'm like, how could that be better than trying mushrooms? Who my friend who recommended it to me had been on them for a year. And she had never been in the program. So it was something I had to put a lot of thought and preparation into. It wasn't something one day I was like, I'm just going to do it. It was... I have absolutely the best intentions of doing it. I'm doing it for the right reasons. If any other reason, if you're trying to treat depression, is not the right way to go about it, because it is a psychedelic, you know. So I think if you had the wrong intentions, it wouldn't work. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like,
did you have fear before like starting?
Yeah, I was nervous. You know, I'm nervous with drugs in general. I know myself. You know, I know I'm a drug addict. I can't do drugs. Like, I just can't. And I was afraid, you know. I was like, I don't want to trip, because I don't want that. I don't like that. And I didn't, but I was definitely afraid.
Yeah. So EMDR, you're microdosing psilocybin. So what does life look like today versus before you started taking these actions to solve these challenges that you were facing?
Yeah, I mean, my life is so full today, and it's full with like a ton of good and a lot of bad, you know, a lot of bad days. I've definitely come to this point where I'm on this journey, right? And it's not necessarily AA driven. It's not fuck it driven. Like, I don't care. Whereas that's how it was for me before, you know. It's like, I think that's why it was so easy for me to just shoot dope, because I'm like, I don't care if I die. I really don't. Like, whatever. And now I'm on this path where I want to take care of myself. I want to do my best. I want to be patient with myself. I always try to remember that my progress is going to be the opposite of linear. Well, not the opposite, but close to the opposite of linear. It's going to be a lot of lows and a lot of highs, but I stay doing the things that I know help me grow as a person and address my trauma. And I also keep a lot of people around me that maybe will always tell me what I need to hear, but not always what I want. And those people have told me not what I want to hear before, but what I needed to hear. And I've been so glad that they're there, you know. And I don't know. I feel like at this point in my life, I'm trying to pull from all of my experiences, all of the tools I've used, whether it's from here, there, and I'm willing to try it, because I know that my heart is in the place where I want to grow as a person, and I want to be a good person always. Yeah. I want to do the right thing. You know, it's simple. It's become very simple. And it was very complicated for a really long time, because I was like, I have to get better. I have to feel better. I can't live this way anymore, or I'm just going to die. I just want to kill myself, you know? And like those two extremes, like, okay, you know what? I'm going to try and do everything I can to feel better, because it's worth it. Because what else am I going to fucking do?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's the classic story, man, of just like, pain is necessary and suffering is optional. You know, we all have this breaking point. Yep. We have this breaking point of pain, you know, and like that breaking point brings us to this time in our life, or this fork in the road. We're like, all right, it's time to do something about this. Yeah. You know, because the suffering that comes afterwards is totally optional. Right. And like your story of everything that you've been through has just been, you know, a testament to that. Right. You know, you can continue to sit in the suffering, or you can do something about it. And you can flip that experience around to help somebody else. And that's where we find the most joy and the most fulfillment. Exactly. And it's like the key to someone else's future and happiness, right? Right. And, oh man, I don't know. It was just so... What you've done tonight is my original idea of this podcast. You hit it on the head. It was fucking beautiful, man. And thank you so much for just your transparency and your honesty. But, you know, let's get a little weird, dude. Let's get a little weird. Let's get a little weird. Here we go. Everything I know about anything you can put on a stick and shove right up my ass. And that was from a 70-year-old man named
What is
Dick.
the context? There is no context.
That is the
makes
most
sense.
like roundabout weird.
There's a whole story to it. I'm telling you, we should do a podcast about some of the crazy
no
shit that I've said.
context.
So what does Whitney do now for fun?
What do I do now?
I love it when you wear these lilac pants.
That scared me.
Who is that?
I know exactly who that
That's
is.
Tim Beers.
Yeah.
Like, who's this voice coming out of the lilac pants? What do I do for fun? You know, really, it's just mostly hanging out with all kinds of different people. Like, I have lots of different friends in lots of different places, and I love just, I don't know, experiencing all different people at different places, doing different things. I like drinking. I go out on the weekends, I guess.
Weekend warrior.
Yeah, I do.
White Claw and break the law.
White Claw, ain't no laws.
Hey, watch out. Well, that's super interesting in itself, is that
I
idea
know.
too. Like, because Danny talks about that all the time. Like, he's not set on one group of people. You know,
No.
I
like
thought you were talking about drinking White Claw.
Yeah, I was very curious
Danny
where this
really
was gonna
wants a
go.
White
Yeah.
Claw?
Danny loves the claw, dude. He loves when that talon just fucking grabs him.
Well, I think like we talked about this a while back, right? As a result of like my experiences, I'm kind of like a social nomad, where like there's a lot of different groups that I can easily flow
Yeah,
in and out of.
totally.
And like it's good and it's bad. Like there's
Yeah.
positives and negatives to it.
Yeah, and I can see like there are times, you know, I feel like I'm drawn to so many different kinds of people, but I also have this, and this is part of like my personal growth, you know, in the last couple of years, where I have to be aware and acknowledge like I am drawn to bad things. I'm drawn to the darkness. Like I always have been, you know, and I have to kind of like acknowledge that part of myself and respect that, and that like I have to think twice about who, you know, I'll pour my energy into, because sometimes like someone can really influence me in a bad way if it's like that darkness.
So what's that transition like? You know, because you were in the program, right? And like the program of AA, right? Or
Yeah.
any of the A's is like this very like militant.
Yes.
We don't do drugs or we don't drink anymore because that leads to burn the needle in my arm.
Right.
So I mean, you drink, quote unquote, normally now.
Right.
What was that experience like? Now, please, all the viewers that are in recovery, do not take this as like there's hope out there for you to drink normally. Everyone has their
Yes.
own experience, so
Very
please.
important. So yeah, that is so important, because my theory is that AA is necessary for some of us. It's the only solution for some of us. I don't know if it's the only solution for me. It is. I could never ever repay, you know, the A's for what they gave me, which is the tools how to live life, how to be a good person, how to hold myself accountable, how to talk to people, how to be a good friend, how to be a good daughter. Like AA absolutely gave me the tools to become the person I am now. But for me, I don't know. I have been in and out a lot. My relapses were kind of always tied to somebody else. You know, I'm definitely a codependent, absolutely. But when I kind of took a step back, I thought, you know, what is my main issue? And for me, it has always been my mental health and dealing with my trauma. And I knew that sober or not, if I don't deal with my trauma, it's going to kill me. Like, sober or not, that exists. I still have that pain, those problems. I still act out in those ways because of it. So as soon as I began to address that, you know, I drank one weekend and I was fine, and I drink a couple weekends later, and yeah, I can drink quote unquote normally. I have been for, you know, over a year, and it works for me. But I also have many of my best friends are still in the rooms. They still work a program. I go to them, you know, I talk to them about the things that I would only feel comfortable talking to someone in the program about, you know, and I keep them close to me to hold me accountable. Yeah. And that's the biggest thing, is transparency and honesty and willingness to be called out on your fucking bullshit. You know, I can do that now. It's been done enough where I'm like, I know who I am, and it's, you know, I know I'm flawed, and I'm willing to be put back in line, because I'm not going to fucking burn my life to the ground. I'm just not.
Hell yeah.
So
I got a random question. What's your favorite conspiracy theory?
Epstein didn't kill himself.
that's
It's not
like-
even a
that's very
conspiracy
mainstream.
theory. No,
The
I know.
vagina
I is like an ecosystem. That's not a conspiracy. That's facts.
It's fucking
That's. I just
science,
wanted
bro.
to say Epstein didn't kill himself on this
Nice.
because
Hell yes.
my favorite one would have to be the one I was telling you about, that like there are concentration camps here on United States soil, and that the government is building them and planning some sort of, this one's so wild. Okay, I got deep. I was telling Danny this on the way here. I got real deep into conspiracies when I was really twacked out. Like, I thought I was going to form a militia and overthrow the government. That's how deep I was in
Stage
it.
a coup.
Yeah, something like that. But anyway, it's just this theory that the government wants to kill us all. And there's all this land all throughout the United States with these massive black plastic. They could only be coffins. The only thing that would fit in these are humans. And there's like millions of them all throughout the country. And the government owns the land that all of them are on. And you can't go there and you can't take pictures. And they're real weird about it. So I don't know. I really believe that I wouldn't put it past our government and some kind of mass genocide of the people, so that there were less people and less people are easier to control. So some sort of population control type scenario, you know.
Sure. I'm a big fan of
I think I'd really like that.
I think I mean,
That. I recognize that voice.
who was that?
That was Rooney.
Oh, that's right. That's right. No, I don't think you know that person.
Nah, I missed that one. Final thoughts?
Wow, conspiracies.
Yeah, I'm a big fan.
Conspiracies.
I always thought that,
Cowspiracy.
elections were going to be canceled, and there was
Cowspiracy.
a bunch of FEMA camps. Kind of similar to what Whitney said. There's like FEMA camps that
Yeah, FEMA
people
camps,
can be
that's the
held
word.
into.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. And like the mass depopulation of the United
Yeah.
States.
You want to know what the conspiracy is? You want to know conspiracy?
Oh, here we go.
The conspiracy is I don't understand why we're not rich from this podcast when we have guests like Whitney Vader on here.
Oh.
Because you absolutely killed it tonight, man. So there's a couple
Thank
final
you.
thoughts, right? One is, if you've been through any kind of abuse, verbal, sexual, physical, speak up on that accuser, man. Because that experience right there and what you talked about is so powerful. And like the reason I love this podcast specifically is that I had no idea where it was going to go. I had no clue. I actually did meet you once before, if you remember. It was my 5-year birthday party at Lake Pleasant, and we went down that big slide that launches you 30 feet into the water.
Yeah. Yo, that fucked my back up.
Yeah, dude, that fucked my back up real bad. Because remember, I was like, I just shaved my back. I'm feeling aerodynamic. And you guys were like, oh, your back looks so
Totally remember
good.
that. Your back looks so good, man.
Yeah, man, if you've been through anything like that, fucking speak up. Speak up, because that experience alone is so fucking powerful. So again, I just want to thank you for your transparency, your honesty, your experience, like everything tonight. It was beautiful. Thank you so much.
Oh, yeah, thank
My
you.
pleasure.
Don't forget to hit the subscribe button, my children.
Smash that
Right.
button.
Smash that fucking
the
button.
bell.
Fucking
Click the
smash
bell,
Smush-
smash
smush
that
it.
smush,
Give it the old
smush.
smush.
Fucking you tortellini tush, you fucking smash that button, okay? You fucking smash it. Again, we're sponsored by
Yes.
Butt Out E-Cigs. Put in the promo code last week out, get 20% off your small Ethiopian child. I mean vape, that is a vape juice, and we love you. Goodbye.